All right, welcome everyone. Chris Petri here. Thanks for coming by. We're actually having a great time. We're going to do a beautiful still life here. We're going to create actually all the fun things you'd like in a still life. Some flowers, a vase, a coffee mug, some fruit, an apple, a lemon, a lime. We have a gorgeous tablecloth here with some stripes on there. So we kind of have a lot of interesting features here in this still life. I think you're going to have a great time painting along with. I'll just describe to you everything that we're going to do as we go step by step. We're going to use our standard Schmincke palette with fresh squeeze tube paints. So you're going to see all the colors as I mix them as I go. I'll explain everything as we go with regards to color. And we also have our phone. We're going to have my cell phone in view right on the camera. So you'll be able to see our still life setup that we have right here on the picture. So you'll be able to work along with that too and be able to kind of visualize what we're doing here on the paper. So I think everything here is going to come together really nicely. Everything you can want for a still life painting. So let's grab our gear and get ready to start. All right, so we just saw the finished painting. We're getting back in swing here. I just wanted to mention that in this video, we actually we'll cover a few different materials, art supplies that we use once in a while. You know, this isn't a standard office pencil here. You know, these are just, you know, your standard Dixon Ticonderoga pencils, office pencils, and also school pencils. So these are great to have. I always buy a couple boxes at a time on Amazon. And those are great to have. And also, too, I just mentioned I'll always use a kneaded eraser, which is basically a soft, pliable eraser that doesn't create any crumbs. So if you're going to do some erasing on your drawing, when you're doing your drawing, especially on your watercolor paper, I use Faber-Castell. Faber-Castell makes great kneaded erasers, and they come in these really gorgeous plastic cases, which keeps them fresh and soft. So the only way you open them up is when you have to trim them open and when you're ready to use them. They come in plastic, so they have plastic around them like this. So you buy them in the case like that. You can store them. You can buy 5 or 6 at a time. Have them, you know, on hand at all times. They stay in these really good cases, nice and neat, organized. They stay soft and pliable because they're covered in plastic, and then they're also in this plastic case. So I always use these. These are great to have, a couple extra. But again, I use kneaded erasers always when I'm doing any kind of pencil drawing, whether I'm doing it on printer paper or my finished watercolors. I always have my kneaded eraser. So those are just a few materials right away that we kind of see here that we use. And of course my Schmincke palette, I customized it a little bit. I bought those extra pans. There's large and small pans in here, and I kind of fit them all in. I have a video. I'll put that in the description below if you want to get a Schmincke palette just like this and then fit all of your pans in there just like I have it with all the same colors in the same exact locations. That's fine. You can do that, or you can just kind of set it up your own way. That's fine as well, but I always give you the option, so I do have a video on that, and again, I'll put that in the description below on how to set up your palette just like this, a customized Schmincke palette where you put all your pans in there with all of your colors exactly the way we have it right here, all set up. And let's get started with our drawing. And again, we kind of mentioned probably briefly in the very first part of the video here when we were looking at the finished painting. We're just doing basically a simplified version of this still life, which is basically an apple, a lime, a lemon, a coffee mug, and some beautiful flowers here in a small little glass vase. So we're going to try to incorporate all of these elements here, all of this subject matter, still life subject matter, just to give ourselves the real clear focus in our mind of, number one, how we can use dark colors, dark tonal values to kind of make an interesting painting and make the whole entire painting itself interesting, because we have different focal points that we can look at in a painting that are going to look really good, really interesting. And then also, too, we wanted to kind of focus in on the idea of, you know, beautiful color and just having a little bit of extra details, too. Maybe we're going to do a little bit of the tablecloth here that we have. You'll see these stripes along these along this tablecloth. So we're going to get into all of that right now. First thing I like to do is I always just like to make a a border around my watercolor paper and pencil, or maybe sometimes I'll put a piece of tape on there, depends. We're not going to go too, we're not going to get too involved with shadowing and things like that with we're just going to kind of maybe pretend that the shadow is right underneath the objects and the light's coming straight down. So we could also make a little light insignia like this. We could make our spotlight insignia like that. And this way we just kind of know that the light is coming from overhead, top down, straight overhead on our still life picture that we're going to create, our painting. I do notice that the light might be coming a little bit from the left going right this way, according to this photograph, but we're really just going to use this photograph for our subject matter, and then we'll use our own light pattern. And the reason I do this is more of a simplified light pattern where we're just going to put a little bit of shadowing right below our subject matter here. Again, an apple, a lime, a lemon, coffee mug, and some flowers. We'll put the shadowing right directly below these objects, and we won't get involved with doing long shadows like you might see in this photograph. You can probably see that in the photograph there. So we're going to, again, you're the artist. Take liberties to adjust your compositions the way you want it to look. Maybe you're going to want to do these longer shadows flowing to the right side, which means the light is coming from this direction. So you can adjust your light the way you want to. Some of you might just say, oh, Chris, you know what? I'm going to stick with the way you did it. Others of you might say, I think I'm going to do something a little different. Maybe you'll make the light coming from the left going across the page this way, or maybe you'll make your shadows over here on the left side of your subject matter with the light coming this way. So it's up to you. The thing is, try to put your insignia on your paper somewhere so you kind of can always refer back to where your light's coming from. So this is our spotlight. I'm saying mine's going to just be spotlight, light coming directly from a top coming down this way. Again, if you want to change up and do a spotlight coming from this direction, just draw your spotlight over here so that gives you the instant glance over on your notes on your border of your watercolor paper saying, oh yeah, the light's coming from this direction. So you're never at a loss for where your light is coming from and where your shadows should be, approximately. Okay, so now I'm just going to start in the center with the vase and flowers. And the first thing I notice is the bottom of that vase is probably about a quarter of the way up the page. So if we were to break this into quarters, we would say halfway point is about there, quarter here, 3/4 here. So we're going to make the first quarter up from the bottom. We're going to create our first bit of subject matter here, which is our flowers in our vase, glass vase here. Okay, so I'm going to make the glass vase like this. Hopefully you can see that pencil line. I'll do it a little darker. I'm also dealing here, I had a couple stitches in my thumb that I went on vacation. Strangely enough, I went on vacation. You got to be careful on vacation anyway. I was wading around in the shallow ocean water, and I rested my hand on top of a fish that had those little spikes on it. And I got a little spike inside my thumb, and it went really deep into my thumb, and thankfully I did not get infected, but the actual thorn type thing went way deep inside my thumb, and it was bothering me a lot. So I went to the doctors, and they cut it out for me. So I have a couple stitches here in my thumb. I've been dealing with that for the last month, but it's finally almost back to 100%. I just have a little bit of the stitches came out the other day, and now I just have a little bit of some tape over the stitches and cut where they went in and did the surgery. Our great doctors that do our surgeries, our doctor that did mine, he just did a little tiny incision and got that thing out of there, that thorn that was really far, way deep inside my thumb. That was, again, great to get that out. I feel 100% better, and actually now I'm going to be able to take this little bandage off in a couple of days. It'll probably just come off naturally. I went to see the other doctor also, and he gave me this small bandage just until it gets a little bit back to fresh air and water and things like that. But it should be better in a couple of weeks now. So anyway, let's keep going here. So we have our glass vase, flowers, and then what we'll do is I'm not going to get incredibly detailed with these flowers and these leaf forms. I'm going to try to make it a little more simplified. So I'm going to use what I'm seeing here, but I'm not going to be critically, getting really super overly detailed in what I'm doing. I'm just going to kind of follow the pattern, but I'm just going to enjoy myself here and not be worried. And, I can kind of see that it flows over to the right a little bit more with these flowers here, and then there's some leaf forms here, and then there's another flower up here, flower shape, petals, flower petals there, and like that, and like this, and a little more petals over here, and then there's another. So we have a few petals and a few shapes of like this. Okay, so I did a little improv there, but I basically got the flower petals in here, the flower shapes, and then some of the darker green petals, or I should say the leaf forms, the green leaf forms that we have here. So that's good. And then maybe we have some of these stems in the vase. I'll just do a few of those. I'm going to improv these too. Just a couple straight lines and maybe one or two curved lines in there. Fine. And then let's go in, again, I'd like to use my kneaded eraser. Let me erase this little bit here on the right side of that vase. And what I'd like to do is do my lemon and create my lemon here like this. So I'm going to do my lemon like this. Like that. Okay, so I have my lemon here now. Then I do notice that I do have some really nice stripes on my tablecloth here. So I'm going to use that to kind of help me to get some things in position correctly. So now we're going to use create our lime over here. Look at that, how good that looks. So that's our lime, like this, our lime. And there's a little bit of a shadow under the lime, and I'll put a little shadow under the lemon like that. Just a little bit to let me know I need to create a shadow underneath these objects. Otherwise they will look like they're floating in space. We want to make sure we have some shadows. And then there's the stripe of the tablecloth like that. And then now what we're going to do is we have our lemon, we have our lime, we did our flowers, we created those first, and then we're going to do next our coffee cup, our coffee mug. So we're going to do that here next. We'll start out at the bottom like this. We'll make a little bit of a curved line. It's a bit curved. And then we're going to come up here like this, and it's pretty much straight up. And then we're going to have a little bit of a ellipse up here, which is the top of the coffee mug, like that. And like that, the other side of the coffee mug. And then we're going to have the handle of the coffee mug like this, and it's going to be a soft kind of turn like this. Like that. Okay. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to do the apple over here on the left-hand side. So now when we look at the apple, that's where this gets a little bit more, we have to just put the brakes on a second. So we're going to tap on the brakes a little bit and slow down just a second and say, all right, let's look at this apple. This apple is a little bit closer to us this way. And these other, the mug, the flowers, the lemon, and the lime are a little bit further in the distance. It's a little bit on an angle. So I'm taking the picture from an angle. So we are seeing a little bit of an angle in this picture. So let's capture that a little bit. We don't have to be exact, but let's just say that this apple should be a little larger because it's closer to us. You can imagine the apple is the closest still life object that we have in this painting. Let's make sure we kind of make this a little larger, and you can even exaggerate it a little bit if you want to to kind of give it more impact. When you're looking at it, you'll really feel like, bam, that apple's really close up. So, and I see that apple is sort of touching along the bottom of this handle of this coffee mug. So let's do that. Let's make sure we kind of tie that apple into the coffee mug there. And then we'll just, again, like I said, I want to make that apple a little bit larger, just so that we kind of feel like we have a little bit of a larger object here in the foreground. And I'm just going to make the apple like this, like that, and a little bit of a shadow underneath, like so. And then we're going to just do a small ellipse up here for where the core of the apple is and the stem, like that. And as you can see, we have everything pretty much completed. We have our tablecloth, and then what we can do is we could take the back edge of our table and just make that line going across, just like this. Actually, it's right at the top of the apple. Pretty much. You could also get a ruler if you wanted to. That sometimes works really well. This way we're exact on our back. And again, I use my kneaded eraser. I'm just going to lightly erase that line I made in the back here for the back of the table. So we're going to try to get a more exacting line in the back of the table here. So what I'll do is I'll take my steel ruler. This happens to be a Statler stainless steel ruler. And then I just look at my photograph and I say, where is that line coming across here? It goes above the line a little bit, that green lime, that it's a little bit above that. It kind of touches just the very top of the lemon here, and it goes right across. So let's keep that line just the way we see it, like that. And then we could just draw that line in, like so. Like that. So there we have that good line. Now you can see we have an issue. I must have leaned in and somehow touched some of the paint. When this happens, you never worry about it. You have to just think really quick. You have to know what to do in this situation. So I must have dipped my hand in the paint there somehow or whatever. Get some fresh, clean water with a paper towel like this. That's all you have to do is remember, fresh, clean water. So you could use like a water bottle quickly. You wouldn't want to go into muddy water if you have and then you just dab up. You dab up the paint that got a little bit smudged on there. And you just gently pick it up. And then I'll just use another bit of water here. And then most times you can get all of that up. And that's fine. You don't need to get anything more than that off the paper, because we're going to actually create a background color a little bit, warm and cools, blue and golds. The flowers are going to be a lot of pinks and greens. You'll never see that little bit of smudging on your paper. If you have a problem like that, the number one thing you have to do, you have to recall, now you're the artist, remember this. If you have a problem where you're working just like I was, and all of a sudden you see a giant smudge of blue paint or red paint or whatever color paint it is, do not panic. The first thing you do is you grab a paper towel. First thing you do, grab the paper towel. Second thing, fresh, clean water. So if there's fresh, clean water in your water bucket, fine, dip into that. But if there's muddy water in your water bucket, then don't do that. Grab some fresh, clean water. Just totally wet your paper towel, soak it, and then just blot on it, and then just, you can actually get most of that right off the paper. Not a problem at all. And you can see how easily we just fixed that problem. So always remember that. You can fix that kind of an issue if it happens. You just did all that hard work drawing. So that's the thing I want to make clear is if you've created this beautiful drawing for yourself, you're almost ready to start painting, and all of a sudden a smudge like that happens where you get paint on your paper, don't worry. Do not panic. Always remember, grab your paper towel, fresh clean water, get it on there, blot it all up. Be careful. Take your time. Once you grab that paper towel and that fresh clean water, paper towel, once you grab that, then you're all set. It's almost like you're all set, ready to go. You don't have to, then you're really not even panicking at all. You're not panicking. You're just saying, okay, now I'm just going to start blotting on and seeing how much I can get up by just blotting first. And then as you see it all coming up, you're just like, oh, not a problem. It's coming all up. And then fine. And then you just sort of blot and rub a little bit. And you, like I said, we got most of all this up. You're never going to see this when we're done with our finished painting, as you'll see at the end of the video. It'll be like it never happened. Okay, so don't panic. You know the process now. You get a giant smudge of paint on your paper right away. Fresh clean water, paper towel. Don't panic. Relax. Handle the situation. Blot with a soaking wet fresh clean water paper towel. And then as you're going, you'll see how much comes up. Sometimes it may be a problem. I would say it depends on the color of paint you've smudged onto your paper. Some colors soak into the paper and make it's more difficult to get them up off the paper. But again, you can work with that. You can just make the colors of your painting a little different. Try something new, try something creative, or if you want, no big deal, take the paper, start again, draw a new drawing, and you're all set. So either way, have fun with it. We'll be right back. We'll start painting next. Okay, so we're getting ready to paint. We have our everything all set up, our paints, our palette. I have a water container over to my right. So I just like to mention I do use the Holbein Artists and Designers Materials collection here. This is the Holbein water container. It's a collapsible water container. These work really great. They're very inexpensive. You can open them up and you can squeeze them down like this. For your water container, you can bring these out if you go to the park and you want to paint, or in the backyard. If you're going in maybe traveling to your family for family get-togethers and you're going to do a little painting, by your families, or if you're on vacation or just in the studio. These are great water containers. I use them all the time. And I always usually buy about 2 or 3 at a time on Amazon. They're very inexpensive and they're great water containers. And I clean them out and wash them up for many, many, many uses. And then maybe after a year or two, I will take a brand new one and get that one back into circulation. So sometimes they just get it really, really filled with like muck and watercolor paint, and I can scrub them down and keep them clean for about a year. But after that, I usually change out and do a new one. So these are great to have. Again, Holbein makes these great collapsible water containers. That's over to my right. And then we have our palette here. So let's start out. Let's start out our sap green. A little bit of burnt sienna up here at the top. Sap green. A little bit of cobalt blue down here. And this is going to be for our green. We'll start doing some of our leaf forms. And again, I'm not going to take a tremendous amount of time here. I would just want to really cover how you can get some really beautiful contrast in your paintings, some beautiful dark and light contrasts in your paintings. So I'll do some of these stems even too. Inside this vase, like that. A little bit of that watery feel with the blue, cerulean blue. Then let's continue on. We're going to get some of those green leaf forms up here. we're thinking contrast here. So what I'll do is I'll go around this, I'm going to go around this flower arrangement here with my darks, so I can get my darks in. And I'll paint around those flower petals. That looks pretty good. Then I can start, actually I'll let that, as we say, set up. So let this set up, your leaf forms, your green leaf forms, let those set up. I'll do a couple splashes here just to loosen up a little bit. And then what I'll do is I'll move to a different area maybe. Maybe I'll go in and get a little bit of French ultramarine blue here. I'll just make it a little darker under there, like so. And then maybe I'll do some lemon. So let's do the lemon here. We'll do the main color of the lemon first. That would be the straight cadmium yellow lemon. Cadmium yellow lemon. That's the color. Maybe I'll leave a highlight on there up top like that. White paper. I'll get that all in with that one color straight tube paint. Almost zero water, just a damp brush and the cadmium yellow lemon. Then I'll go in and get a little bit of the blue over here. Maybe a little bit of raw umber. And I'll just do a little bit of a shadow with some blue and that, like that. So I just want to get a little bit of a shadow under there. Nothing too amazingly dark. And then let's get a little bit of more shadow in that. I'll use maybe some cadmium yellow. And then even some raw umber. So you can kind of see I'm going with a little bit of a darker tone here. And it's a little bit lighter up top. So I leave that straight cadmium yellow lemon up top. And then maybe, again, a little bit of yellow ochre possibly. A little bit of yellow ochre, raw umber. Just get a little bit of that darker tonal value underneath the lemon like that, where it's kind of shadowy. You can even go in with a little bit of blue. Cerulean blue to cool it up a little bit, but I think that looks pretty good. There we go. Then let's come over and do our lime. Same thing with our lime. We're going to go with that is straight sap green. And what I'll do is I'll add just a touch. Maybe I'll take a paper towel or a tissue. I tend to always like to work with a tissue or a paper towel on hand so I can take off some of that paint off my brush like that for the sap green. And I don't necessarily have to go in and rinse off my brush. I just take off some of that paint and then go in and grab some cerulean blue here and some burnt sienna for a little bit of a darker bit of color there. And then that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take this and I'm also going to leave a highlight on there, right over there. So we're creating our lime. Like this. Go back in, we get our color, our tube paint. And you can see, can you see how I'm using almost zero water. I'm just using a damp brush, basically, a damp brush, and then I'm going right in and just grabbing the paint right out of the palette. So that's the key here to doing this kind of a painting where you want to get that real powerful darks and lights in your painting. So we're getting that dark and light feel Then I'll rinse off my brush and then just use a damp brush. Like that. You can even rinse off your brush, dry off a little bit of water, and then you can even lift up a little bit of paint like that. Rinse off the brush again, dry off the water, damp brush. You can even blot a little bit with the tissue. And this way you can, we get that kind of that lighter feel up top. Like that. Then we come in here, grab a little bit of cobalt blue, maybe some cerulean blue. And we'll just get a little bit of that shadow feel with a little bit of gold maybe too. We'll put a little bit of gold into that shadow there. Warm and cool. Looks good. Now we're going to take a quick break. We've done quite a bit now. We've got the dark leaf forms around our flower shapes, so we drew in our leaf forms and our flower petals, our flowers, in the vase. And then, as you saw right when we started out, we did more or less, we did the green, dark, very, very strong, dark, strong tonal values of the leaf forms first. And then we let that kind of dry, so that right now it's still drying, still setting up. And then we came down and we did our lemon and our lime. So that's good for right now. Let's take a break. And then what we can do is, when we come back, it's going to be even more, the paint is going to be drying even further, which is really going to help us, because we're going to go back in and do the flower shapes now maybe. Or maybe we'll move over here and do we'll see what happens next. But I think the best thing is, I just have to be careful not to lean into my lemon and my lime paints as I'm painting now. But I think I can work up here and get our pinkish and purple flower petals started over here in our vase. I think we can do that next. Then we'll work into the mug and the red apple. So let's take a quick break again. And then again, finally, after all of that, we complete that. Then we'll do some of our shadows on the background and maybe a couple stripes on our tablecloth that we have here. So we have one line across our tablecloth. You can see the lines in the tablecloth. We'll do a few more, pencil in a few more as we go. But so far we're having a good go of it. Good job. Good job. We're doing really having a fun here, most of all, having fun. And then we're just kind of keying in on some of the details that we need to just make sure we're kind of on track, on this composition, still life composition. I think you're doing fine. You can also simplify a little bit. Maybe you're just going to do a mug, a lemon, and the flowers, and you won't worry about doing the apple and the lime at first. Maybe you want to simplify it a little bit, make it a smaller composition first. I always used to do that when I was coming up through the ranks. I would always try to break paintings, take a larger painting, and then say, you know what, I'm just going to do a small part of the larger painting first. I'll do that, practice that. Then maybe I'll practice a few other things, and then maybe I'll try the larger painting after I've practiced a few of the smaller parts of the larger painting first. So that's always a good way to tackle things if you want. If you feel like it's too much to do everything at one time, don't worry about it. Just key in on a few of the simple compositional subject matter that we have here. In any case, great that you're following along. Hope you'll also subscribe on the right-hand side below. There's that subscribe button. It's really simple. When you subscribe on my YouTube channel here, all that does is just, you'll see when you open up YouTube the next time, whether it's in a couple days or a week, you'll just notice that YouTube alerts you that I've created a new video. So you'll be able to follow along with what we're doing here on this channel. And that's all that it is. There's no emails or text messages or phone calls, any kind of, there's no nonsense like that. I know that's a real bother with a lot of people. A lot of people get really, and it's the same thing for myself. I always get emails and, text messages and phone calls from all these people trying to want to sell me something, whatever it is. Don't worry about it. When you subscribe below on the right hand side, it's not going to trigger any kind of issues like that. It's just basically YouTube is just wants you to, your favorite people you follow on YouTube. If you hit subscribe, that means you'll see when I have a new video coming out, and you'll be alerted to that so that you don't lose track of me. That's all it is. Okay. All right. And we'll be back in just a second. Okay, so we're going to keep going here. I'll probably take my water and put some fresh water in my water container first thing. So I'll usually change my water 2 or 3 different times, possibly within a painting, sometimes more, but usually 2 or 3 times I would say, especially when you want to do really light washes, like very light tonal values. Okay, so now I'm going to look for my brush. Here we go. All right, so now the next thing we'll do is let's get some of those orangey and pink flowers, petals, painted in. So I'll go in with some alizarin crimson, a little bit of rose madder, maybe a little bit of purple, which is ultramarine violet. I use Winsor & Newton ultramarine violet. I get all my paints on Amazon. I just go in now on Amazon and order my tube paints, and I use Winsor & Newton for my tube paints as well as Holbein. So usually I find all my colors I can get with either Winsor & Newton, which is my go-to. That's my favorite. And also Holbein, I use about maybe 70% of my paints are usually Winsor & Newton, and then 30% are Holbein. But those two keep me satisfied. I usually can find all the colors I need. Winsor & Newton's great because they have the really large tubes you can purchase, which make it a little bit easier if you're using a lot of paint and painting a lot. I use the large tubes. I guess I can show you what I have here. I guess like this is cerulean blue, but you can see how large that tube is. So I use a lot of cerulean blue, and then maybe there's a few other colors that maybe I don't use as much. Maybe I don't use as much Prussian blue, or maybe I don't use as much chromium of oxide. So chromium of oxide and Prussian blue I don't use as much, so I buy the smaller tubes with those two colors. Prussian blue here you can see is Holbein, and then Winsor & Newton is my oxide of chromium, and my cerulean blue. So I have those two are my main brands I like to use. You can get them right on Amazon. Makes it easy. I just order everything on Amazon. And so we have our Winsor & Newton purple, which is ultramarine violet, and then mixed in with some Winsor & Newton alizarin crimson, and then some Winsor & Newton rose madder. My rose madder might actually be Holbein. And then we take those colors and even a little bit of orange. Let's go with some cadmium orange. We'll put that down here just as a little like this, because I noticed there is some orange here. Okay, so I try to see if I can see some shapes right away that I look. This looks like more of a purple. Over here, like that. Maybe a little bit of cerulean blue. And then I let that just sit there, and then I try to blend in some. I'll take my paper towel or tissue. I'll rinse off the brush, take off some of the water off the brush once I rinse it. Fresh, clean water. And then I can sort of blend those washes out to a lighter tonal value. You can also take your tissue and blot up a little bit sometimes if you need to keep your darks and lights. And I'll try to make sure I Mix all those colors in. Some rose madder up here. Then I'll take a little bit of the colors and splash a little bit on there. And that to me is I might take a little bit of the green. And again, I said I was going to do a little bit of improv, get a little creative here. I did a little bit of splashing to get some more colors there. I might go with a little bit of cerulean blue and negative shape paint around a couple of these petals. So I'll negative shape paint, which means I'll take the background and start moving some washes into the background and paint around those petals like that. Maybe even a little bit of warm colors. So we have some blue. Now let's maybe do some gold washes here. Now I'm negative shape painting, taking some blue background colors, and maybe I'll paint around that mug there. Like that. Couple of splashes. There we go. A little more cerulean blue mixed in with a little bit of that orange. So your background colors actually now that we're going to take our background color, which is going to be blue and then some gold and orange, kind of warm and cool, blue and orange, gold. And you can paint in some of those details of the flower petals there. Those are the lighter flower petals, the white. And then we'll get the edge of the table there, the backdrop, like that, and just kind of get a little bit of some splashing on there, just to get some things happening here. A little bit of red there. Pink. So you can use some of the reds. It's good to mix and mingle the colors. Okay, so there we go. Then we can do some stripes here for the vase, like that. Just to tie in some color there. And what else do we have? Let's keep working on, let's do the coffee cup. So we're going to have some blue and some warm and cool, some blue and some gold. And I noticed that there's that. A little bit of purple. Okay. Then you might want to go in. Sometimes I'll go in and I'll say, all right, I see some detail on that coffee mug. Let me do a... I see a diamond on there, like so. And then there's some script. Okay, so you can add some more finer detail to some of your still life components here. And let's keep working. So I'll take some of that orange and we'll do that here. And then blue and cerulean blue and burnt sienna. That makes a pretty good, kind of a warm gray, like that. And then we'll just do our shadow of our handle here. That. Okay, and then let's work on our apple. That's going to be pretty much, let's do alizarin crimson, rose madder, a little bit of sap green. And let's see, we'll start out there like so, get some darker wash there, then maybe some sap green here, maybe some olive green there. Sometimes you have to lift up a little bit and get some paint off sometimes. So I want to get some green in there. There we go. So we got some green, and we're working with our alizarin crimson again and rose madder. We're going to have a highlight there. And then we'll go with a little bit of a darker green, maybe some burnt sienna and sap green, just to get a little bit of a darker dark in there. Okay, so we have some different... So what I'll do is I'll just rinse off the brush, dry off the brush on a tissue, and you can lift up there and get a little bit of that light on the top of the, again, rinse off the brush, fresh clean water, rinse off the brush, tap on a paper towel, take off the water, and then we just lift off some of that paint around the top of the apple so that you have that little bit of light on the top of the apple. That looks really good. And then we have that highlight there. Let's let that dry. And then maybe once that highlight dries over here, that might be good, just like it is. And then we want to make sure we get right away some of the shadowing under here. So I'll use some of that gray that we mixed. just a little bit for the shadow on that apple. A little bit of orange. And that looks pretty good. Now, I did notice there's some, we could use the stripe now. We could just go right into the apple with that stripe. Like that. You can lift up a little bit of the stripe if you want, just so it's not like one continuous line. Like that. There's another line here. Let's go with a little bit of a wider line here. So now I'm just going to sort of pick up the pace a little bit. These final details here, I'm not too worried about. Like now it's kind of looser, fun. I'm just going to get a couple lines going there. Then I'm going to say, all right, I see a line coming from like behind the vase and across and through that lemon. So I can kind of see that it's about there, like that, but it's blue. So let's use some of that blue, cerulean blue. And that looks pretty good if we can get some cerulean blue on our palette there. And just make it wider as it comes out closest to us, like that. That works out good that way. And then there's another purplish. We'll get some of that ultramarine violet. And that goes about there where the handle is on the mug. And it comes across this way. And we can make it wider as it goes across. Like that. And then there's another cerulean blue that comes across here. Like that. There we go. So it's just a matter of kind of getting the feel for it. Kind of look at the angle, check it out. See where it starts and then where it ends up. And then like we'll use some more orange over here. So it starts about here and goes about there into the lime area. And then it goes about there. And it gets wider. Very thin back here. And it gets wider. And then you can blot up a couple spots. And then there's maybe another one here. Like that. Okay. Maybe I'll make a little bit of a put a little bit of colors over here. Just a little bit of colors along the edge there. Warm and cool colors, a little bit of gold, a little bit of blue. Soften that out. A little bit of that background color, just softening that out a little bit. Okay, and that looks pretty good. We can always take a little bit of the darker washes with our point of our brush, just if we want to make a couple of these details here. Okay, so we have a little bit of detail on the mug here. All right, so I think I might just do a few branches here, a couple. Just like that, a couple of branches, and I think that's fine. We've covered, I think, all the details here that we need to. So I'm glad you joined along. We had a lot of fun here. We kind of just developed this composition, the still life composition, step by step. Pretty simple. When we first started, we got our darker tonal values in the vase, in the floral arrangement here, the darker leaf forms first. Let that dry pretty much 100% while we worked on the lemon and the lime. Then we went back in and got some of those flower shapes, those pink flower shapes, and we can actually use a little bit of titanium white. Maybe we'll do that in just a minute. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll show you how you can use a little bit of titanium white sometimes to add a little bit more details at the conclusion of your painting, to maybe just put a couple highlights in, or maybe just add a little more light into some sections of your painting. So let's do that next. But pretty much that's wrapping up here what we did. We had a fun time of it. Still life is one of your best ways to practice your fundamental skills in watercolor. I suggest everyone to practice on still life as much as you can, and you'll definitely see your skills improve 100% by doing that. So we'll come right back in about 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and we'll put in some titanium white on a few locations on our subject matter here and in our vase of flowers here. And you'll see how we can kind of use that titanium white to just add a couple more critical bits of detail right at the end of the painting, but we don't go overboard with it, and we'll show you how to do just the right amount, just the perfect amount of titanium white will prove to be really beneficial to your painting, to your composition, and we'll kind of just cover that in about 2 seconds. All right, just a few last details here. We're going to use our titanium white paint. We're going to take a little bit of yellow ochre and just mix that yellow ochre in the very, very top of the tube of your paint. So if you can imagine, you just want to infuse a tiny bit of yellow ochre into the top of your titanium white so that it makes it almost like a warm white. So you're adding a touch of, maybe you need to, we'll add a little more. And then I have a tissue here, and I can dry off a little bit of the paint. And what we'll do is we'll recapture this, the mug here. There's a little bit of a white we want to capture across the top there. So I'll do that. I'll just get a little bit of that, like that. And then sometimes if it's too much and you add a little more, too much white, you can always lift up a little bit of the paint. So never feel like you're locked in. You know, you can always lift up a little bit of paint. And so then here we noticed maybe a little bit of white on top of the apple stem. And then I also wanted to add a little bit of white to the petals here, like that. So I just wanted to kind of get some kind of flow of shapes with a little bit of the white paint, like that, just to give it a little more, where it's looking like it's we're seeing petals here, like that. I think that looks a little better. You can always take a little bit of paint too and splash. A couple of splashes of white, titanium white, on your painting, especially around the flower area. That looks good. And I think everything else looks pretty good. I also noticed over here, I might be able to fix this up a little bit. I think I went over the edge of my tablecloth a little bit. So if I just add a little bit of white there, can you see how I fixed that up a little bit? I think that edge got a little bit blurry. So I can add a little bit of the paint there, and I think that looks good. Same here. So you could, you know, add a little bit of titanium white here and there to recapture a couple lights that you see. Maybe we missed a highlight on our lime. The lemon there looks pretty good. I think we have that. That's it. So again, I didn't go overboard. Let's always remember, when you're using your titanium white with a little bit of your yellow ochre in the top, try to use it absolutely sparingly. Sparingly is the key word. Sparingly, because I've done it in the past where I've added too much, and then when I go back and look at my painting like a week later, I say, wow, oh, I added too much of those highlights, the white highlights. I went overboard with that, and it kind of jumps off the paper when you're looking at it if you add too much. So you're way better off if you add a little bit less, and you can always maybe add a few more spots. If you look at it like a week later, you look at your painting a week later and you say, okay, maybe I could add one or two more areas where maybe I need a highlight or something like that. But the key is extremely sparingly with your highlights at the very end of your painting, just to make a few notes, as it were. But I think we have everything looking pretty good. There could be a shadow here, maybe a little bit. So I'll use a little bit of the green, a little bit of the blue. Like that, just for the mug there, coffee mug. And we have our shadows looking pretty good for the rest of our components there. And I think everything else looks fine. Thanks for coming by, everyone. We'll see you soon on the next video. Always remember, if you like the video and you want me to do more like this, please hit the thumbs up. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. The only thing, if you subscribe to my channel and you click on the top bell button, which is the bell icon, that means you'll receive all of my updates. Whenever my new videos come out, you'll be the first to hear about it. This way you can jump in there, watch it, preview it first, and then you'll jump in and do the painting maybe the next day or two. So that's always good. If you can watch the video once full through, kind of get yourself prepped, and then when you go in to actually work along with us here on this on these videos, then you've already watched it once, and then it'll be a lot easier when you're going through the painting the second time, when you're actually doing the painting along with us. So I always mention that it is really important if you can watch the video one time full through. Maybe take scratch down a couple notes if you want to, or just make it some mental notes for yourself. Then you come back, and when you're going to sit down with your paper, your pencils, your paint, your brushes, everything, you're going to be a little more kind of familiar with the painting, with the composition. So try it out, see if it works. If you find that watching it one time before you actually start and work along with the video does not work, then don't worry about it. Don't do it. But I do think it does help a lot. I used to work that way a lot myself, where I would watch many YouTube videos with a lot of other YouTube watercolor artists, and I would always watch the video one time first, let it kind of sink in a little bit, and then maybe the next day or two when I decide to pick up and start painting, drawing and painting, it would be a lot easier. I'd be a little more familiar with the subject matter. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming by. Leave comments in the comment section, questions. I'm always in the comment section, checking out everything, making sure that I'm answering any questions you have. Lots of great questions. Thank you for putting those questions in. Really appreciate that. And this way we kind of all can watch what's going on in the comment section and find out the answers to our questions, or maybe things that are puzzling us about watercolor, whatever it is. And that's about it. So again, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.